Formula One is the stage for furious technological competition, and it's seen the birth of stunning ideas that would have never been conceived otherwise. This is the story of the unusual ideas that have gone into Formula One cars, told through various episodes. In this channel, we will talk a lot about Formula One's history, so please subscribe for future updates. The Tyrrell P34 of 1976 is the only six-wheeled Formula One car to ever run in competition. One of the most famous in the history of Formula One cars, its development plan went back several years before its racing debut. Tyrrell designer Derek Gardner had been concerned about the high air resistance created by the tires on the Tyrrell vehicles at the time. Given that all Formula One racers have open wheels, Gardner knew it was a tough problem to solve. On the 1971 Tyrrell 003, he used a front wing which shrouded the front wheels, but this did not give the effect he hoped for. Gardner hit upon the idea of reducing the tire diameter to reduce air resistance, but this would result in reduced ground contact area and braking capability. Lack of enough grip and braking would limit the attainable speed. So what Gardner proposed was to use 4 small diameter tires on the front, thereby ensuring enough contact area and braking capability, while at the same time reducing air resistance. In 1974, this idea launched the development of Project 34, the six-wheeled Formula One racer. Initially, the main aim was to raise the top speed by reducing air resistance over the smaller front wheels, but since the rear wheels remained the same size, the total drag did not change much, and there was little effect in improving top speed. But increasing the number of front wheels improved braking performance. This in turn allowed the brakes to be applied later, and an increase in performance was expected. The public unveiling of the new car took place at London's Heathrow Airport in 1975, and the appearance was so devastating that the media suspected that it was all just a big joke played by Tyrrell. The P34 was entered the following year, 1976, as the first six-wheeled car in Formula One. In the early part of the season, the team ran a prototype based on the earlier Tyrrell 007, and even then managed to place second in the opening Brazil Grand Prix with driver Patrick Depailler. Since round 4, the Spanish Grand Prix saw the introduction of a new chassis designed specifically for 6 wheels, and this improved performance gave Jody Scheckter a win in the round 7 Swedish Grand Prix, with a total of 12 podium finishes between the two drivers. Tyrrell finished 3rd for the season, up from the previous year's 5th. The P34 was used in 1977 as well, with a new cowl introduced to improve top speed, but performance was lower than hoped. The specially produced small diameter tires were also lagging in development, and the team did not score any wins for the season. The six-wheeler did not return after that. The Tyrrell's team's F1 car for 1997 was the 025, which was a straightforward evolution of the previous 024, and in terms of aerodynamics, it was considered to be on the conservative side. The engine was switched from the previous year's Yamaha V10 to a Ford V8, and the drivers were Jos Verstappen and Mika Salo. Going into the 1997 season, the car was not very competitive, and the team had no prizes in the first few races. However, the 025 had an outrageous trick up its sleeve when racing on technical layout circuits, which needed high downforce. For some of these races, the car sported small wings set on the ends of the stage that extended diagonally from the cockpit sides. It was a desperate ploy to gain even the smallest amount of downforce possible, using a location that was not restricted by regulations. This distinctive configuration gained the name of X-Wing from the fighter spacecraft in Star Wars, and caught the imagination of fans and teams. In the 5th round Monaco Grand Prix, Salo ran with the damaged front wing but managed to finish in 5th, perhaps thanks to the X-Wings. This was the only scoring finish for the season, and the last one ever for the renowned Tyrrell team, which left Formula One after the next season. The X-Wing's aerodynamic effect caught the attention of other teams, and in 1998 a flock of cars showed up with mini wings placed on high position on their machines. But this led to a number of safety problems, such as catching on refueling hoses during pit stops, and these wing extensions were banned in mid-season. The French Ligier team entered Formula One in 1976, following success in sports car races such as the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The team prided itself on being all French, with French driver Jacques Lafitte and the French Matra V12 engine. Their first F1 car, the JS5, caught the attention of observers with its unique concept. Ligier had been making use of wind tunnels, which was still rare at the time. The result of this research was that the JS5 sported a huge rounded induction pod on the rear of the car. The shape led to it being called the Teapot, and in the Round 3 United States West Grand Prix, it showed its speed and finished in 4th place for its first complete race. However, the size of the induction pod was claimed to block the field of view of cars behind it and pose a danger. So from the Round 4 Spanish Grand Prix, regulations on car height were introduced, and the JS5 was forced to revert to a more common type of induction pod. Still, the car had lots of potential, and in the Round 5 Belgian Grand Prix it placed 3rd for a first podium finish. In the 11th round Austrian Grand Prix it placed 2nd, and in Round 13 in Italy it got another 3rd place, giving it 3 podium finishes through the season for 5th place in the constructors' ranking, even though it was the team's first year. "1977 was a year of revolution in Formula One, with the introduction of the Lotus Type 78 ground effect car. The following year, all teams were scrambling to race their own ground effect cars. Brabham ran their BT46, but it didn't have a ground effect design. It was powered by a wide, horizontally opposed 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo engine, on a chassis with a unique triangular cross-section monocoque. These structural factors prevented the adoption of side pod wings, which were essential for a ground effect car. Therefore, in the middle of the 1978 season, Brabham designer Gordon Murray came up with a technology that would provide powerful downforce to match the ground effect cars. The car was fitted with a large fan on the rear of the chassis, which sucked up air from under the body and blew it to the rear, creating negative pressure on the car's underside and downforce on the same level as the ground effect cars. This was the fan car. This idea had been used before in the Chaparral 2J, a car raced in the 1970 Can-Am series with a proven effect. But Formula One regulations stated that cars could not have any moving aerodynamic parts. If the rotating fan was considered an aerodynamic part creating downforce, the fan car could be disqualified. So the team stated that the fan's main purpose was actually to cool the radiator. The suction of air from below was claimed to be nothing more than an accidental side effect, and with this the car had FIA approval to race. The completed BT46 in fan car form had the designation BT46B. It was introduced in the Round 8 Swedish Grand Prix. The cars were driven by John Watson and Niki Lauda. They qualified in 2nd and 3rd, and Lauda managed to pass the pole-sitter Lotus of Mario Andretti in mid-race for the lead, after which Andretti retired. Watson, who was 1 place behind, had to retire with car trouble, leaving Lauda running alone with a 30-second lead over 2nd place Riccardo Patrese for a magnificent debut win. However, after the race, a number of other teams complained about the pebbles and dust blown from the rear-facing fan as a danger to following cars, and called for its banning. While the FIA had initially approved its use, the rival team's protests could not be quelled, and fan cars were banned from the following race on safety grounds. Of course, the BT46B never appeared after that, and thus held the legendary machine of winning the one race it entered. So, what do you think? This time we featured some of the wilder ideas that have gone into Formula One car designs. This channel will introduce more and more Formula One history, so please subscribe to us and it will drive us forward. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video.